Welcome back to another episode of Reiki Cafe Radio. I am your host for today, Isabel Wells, and I am absolutely honored and thrilled to be sitting down with one of my mentors, Beth Beurkens, to share her voice on the podcast. This has been a long time coming, and I am absolutely thrilled to be able to share her voice and perspective here on the show. So, Beth, thank you so very much for joining us and for the privilege of your voice today.
Oh, thank you, Isabel. I'm just so happy to be here with you. And, you are doing amazing work in the world. And I'm so honored to support that by, contributing a little bit of time here to your listening audience. And let's, see what we can share that's really going to be of value today.
Absolutely. And so they, of course, heard your bio from the introduction of this episode, but I would love to just hear from you, we said before the recording started, the spark notes of your journey, how you got to where you are today.
The spark notes, I love that. Spark is so important. Having that fire inside, and how I got from there, childhood, to here, is I just kept listening. I listened to my inner voice. I listened to my heart. I listened to my intuition. And I just kept following where I was being led. And I was led most often, in Michigan, to being outside. I spent most of my time, all my free time, outside at Lake Michigan with the spirit of the lake and with the trees and in the cornfields with the ravens. And I was always paying attention to, how does this feel where I am right now? Does it feel good to me? Does it bring me alive? Is it enlivening? And, there were many opportunities, many things I could have done in life, and if it didn't feel right in my heart, like I was offered a placement in the Peace Corps after I got my BA in philosophy at the University of California, and it wasn't where I wanted to go, and it didn't feel right, so I declined it, and I hopped into a PhD program in philosophy at the University of California. And, that felt right. And continuing to learn and continuing to grow and hang out with people who wanted to talk about really important ideas like, that Socrates was talking about. Like, what is truth? What is beauty? What is love? And so, I spent 4 more years doing that. And then I was led, through a dream that I had, I was led to go live off-grid in a cabin in Corralitos, which is the southernmost part of the Santa Cruz Mountains in California. And I was completely without spark notes, no cliff notes. I didn't know what I was doing. I decided I did not want to be a philosophy professor. That's not what called to me. Nature really called to me, but I didn't know why. Why did I spend 3 years living off the grid in nature? Well, I got to what it was, and that was working with soul. And as you may know, that's really what shamans do. They work with a person's soul, maybe before the soul is born, before it comes into this lifetime. And then once it comes in, there may be some challenges, some difficulties, and they continue to work with the soul. Maybe soul retrieval is needed. Maybe there was difficulty in the birth. They continue to work with a person's soul through adolescence, through adulthood, into middle age, into old age. And then, of course, sometimes the soul needs help to cross over, to let go. Sometimes the soul needs help when on the other side, if it's stuck in some way or lost or confused. So what I got to was working with soul through religion, through mythology, through spirituality. And I became a very popular college teacher. This is in the 80s. And I was teaching all these amazing classes on spirituality and religion and dream work. And And this is the part of the story that I'm really excited to share. So can we, it's about my work with Evelyn Eaton. Can we go to that? Have I given you enough of a picture of how I got here? Okay, let's dive into some depth here then. So I'm a young college professor. We're using all these amazing books like Ruby Modesto. She's a Cahuilla shaman in I can't remember the name of the lake in California. It's a very salty lake. Not Mono Lake, but close by. Her book, Not for Innocent Ears. And, she was teaching us all kinds of amazing things. And we were working with the book, Lost Goddesses of Ancient Greece, looking into the mythologies before Zeus and all of his guys, Apollo came in. The female-based stories and mythologies about female power. And we were working with I Send a Voice by Evelyn Eaton. And I could tell my students wanted more. We're reading about all these amazing healing practices and healing ceremonies. But, we're in a classroom. We can only really talk about these things. And I myself had this deeper longing at that time. The classes were overflow. It was a huge success. I was teaching the classes at 3 different colleges, and yet I had this deep longing. You know about deep longings, right? Where you sense there's got to be more, and there's more to do with my life, and I want a greater connection to this spiritual path. Yeah, I know, ivory tower, intellect. I know all these things, and I could cite, quotes and passages in all the books, but to really know this on the inside, that's what I was longing for. And I could tell that my students were longing for that too. It came up in conversations. And I didn't really know what I was doing, but I followed my sense, that sense of, I'm going to write a letter to Evelyn Eaton. She was living in California at that time, over in the Owens Valley, which is the other side of Death Valley, where the Inyo White Mountains are, and asked her, I said, would you come and talk with us? We're using your book. And I knew she was, speaking here and there throughout California and the Pacific Northwest. I got a letter back from her immediately that said, yes, we'll come on this date. I think it was a Wednesday class, but there's a condition. I don't know. What's the condition? She said, you must create a community meeting also at night where anybody and everybody can come. Small donation. I need $300 for my time. And I thought, oh my God, I don't know how to do that. What? So I said, okay, yes. And she came in her Tioga, what'd you call it, RV, with her assistant, Edie. And she came down the stairs, and I was waiting for her, and she had this long bundle in her hands, made out of, looked like deerskin, with fringe hanging off of it. And we introduced ourselves, and we knew each other immediately. And I knew her, she knew me. And she said, I hope you're prepared. I'm not going to just sit in a classroom with you. And I thought, okay, what are we going to do? She said, we're going to have a pipe ceremony. I said, great. Okay, beautiful. We had been reading about it in the book. She's got her pipe, so we go to the teepee across the street from the classroom that the college very generously gave us money. And, a whole bunch of us students, scraped the poles, eucalyptus poles, put the canvas together, made this teepee, we lit a fire, and I sat down next to her on the earth. And that was the moment where everything in my life really pivoted. Because, I've got all this ivory tower success, from the University of California, and intellectually, she lit the pipe. And I could smell this sweet, sweet, sweet aroma that was so inviting me into this other world where the spirits reside. And she touched the pipe to the earth and said some beautiful words. Then she offered the pipe to the sky. Then she offered the pipe to the 4 directions. All of this before she smoked and sent her voice out. And then she passed her pipe to me. And I could smell this amazing smell and feel the power in the red catlinite, the pipestone, and the stem of the pipe. And spirituality became tangible. It became something known in my body. It's like she installed it in my heart. My whole life changed in that moment. And I got to, touch it to the earth, offer it to the sky, offer it to the 4 directions, send my prayers out, and then pass it to the woman student who was next to me. So spirituality moved into a heart knowing, and knowing really from the inside. And then, we went on from there, and she introduced me and taught me the medicine wheel, which I still, teach to this day, the Cheyenne form of the medicine wheel. And so continuing, I think there's another question you wanted to ask is like, well, what after that? How did you get yourself here? Continuing to follow the scent, the trail of what was possible and what I would really love to be doing in my life, and not settle for something less. Like I couldn't settle. Well, actually, Evelyn passed away. She died. And I wanted to continue to have a mentor, a guide, a teacher. That is so important, whether you're working with Reiki. We've got Dr. Yusui, Dr. Takata, Dr. Hayashi. We've got the Reiki gods. We've got a Reiki teacher, or we're working inside of shamanism. So my next calling was I needed to learn shamanism, to go beyond the medicine wheel, and to go right into the realm of the helping spirits and be with them then. And so I wrote to Michael Harner. I got really good at writing things. And he invited me to come to the Basic Way of the Shaman workshop. I don't know if your listeners know who Michael Harner is, but he's the amazing, he was an anthropologist, and he became a shaman, got initiated as a shaman down in the Amazon. And he brought the classic features of shamanism, what we call core shamanism. He brought these practices to the modern world. They were still kind of lost in the jungles and the Himalayas and, various places, the deserts. And he studied with many of these people and brought the use of the drum and the use of the rattle and the shamanic journey, and so many shamanic practices, brought them together in the Foundation for Shamanic Studies. And when I met him, he and I knew each other too. Deep, profound connection. And I took all of the workshops with him, the weekend workshops and then the 2-week, and, on and on. And he then invited me to become a faculty member. And I learned through the shamanic work with him for 20 years and, being his apprentice and teaching inside the foundation, I learned how to see with my heart, which is where I started with Evelyn, really how to see with my heart, but also travel with my spirit and go right from this world, the middle world, right into the realms of the upper world and the lower world where the helping spirits reside. And I learned how to work with them directly, hand in paw, hand in wing, so to speak, heart to heart. And working with him, I was able to heal some things in me that I didn't even know about, like that I was living my life in push energy. I'm sure you know what that is, right? Push energy, make it happen. I was doing my work in the day at the college, but then, at midnight, I'm writing these individual letters to people who are interested in doing a vision quest with me. And I'm exhausted. Like, I don't want to be doing this, but I don't know how to get out of this, right? So I had soul loss. And through the soul retrieval process and the initiation processes with Michael, I got out of that kind of burned out push energy place. And came more into the center stream of my life.
Mm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. So, it's been an amazing journey, and I would say an extraordinary honor and privilege to work with these amazing medicine women and shamans and with the spirits themselves. Before we started this this amazing podcast, we invited the helping spirits to come in and be with us and guide us. And what we learned through shamanism is that we're not alone. We have so much help. It's always right here. But to learn how to call that help in, how to connect with that help, right? And each practitioner of shamanism learns how to do that in her own way, in his own way. And that's part of what shamanic studies are about. That's so exciting. You become your own spiritual authority.
I love that. And I love how you have these moments there. I call them spiritual checkpoints in your life where you meet that person that you just know, or your life shifts. And you mentioned it towards the end, the idea of that vision quest, and how it sounds like, reflecting back, that was what your life's journey was that vision quest. And now students come to you to take that vision quest for themselves. Can you tell us a little bit more about what a vision quest is and why it's so profound?
Yeah, thank you for that. A vision quest is a kind of formal spiritual journey that you consciously enter into, because there are things going on in your life that just aren't working for you, and you don't know how to get through those, beyond those, on your own. You might have a sense of unworthiness in your life, and so you can't get to the next level of work. And you might feel like, I know one of my vision questers, she felt like her life was in a fog. She just could not see how to get through it. There were like no landmarks there, right? And in the vision quest, there is a roadmap of power and healing that I present to people. Not all at once, not to overwhelm people, but one thing at a time, one practice at a time. And I think one of the biggest things in the vision quest is reacquainting ourselves with the natural world and the power that's out there in nature. What we call the shaman's net of power. Getting connected to that, getting linked up to that. And of course, your power animal helper is part of that. The power of the sun rising in the morning and all that you can call into you to go through your day. The power of the earth herself, the power of the stars, the power of your teacher in human form, and the power of all these ceremonies that help you break away from what no longer suits you, what no longer fits you, what no longer feeds you, what no longer supports you in your life. We just continue to drag things with us. And the vision quest helps us identify, okay, well, what am I done with, and how do I let that go? And as we let things go, we create an opening or a kind of vacuum inside. Then we go to the earth and sit on the earth, make a purpose circle, and sit on the earth and call out to the spirits for vision, for guidance. So the vision quest is, it's got many different parts to it. Each one is so profound, and you put it together in a 90-day program, and it's life-changing because you get in touch with really true sources of power. We have, and I was doing this before I did my first vision quest. I was really using my own energy, teaching 9 courses at 9 different colleges, and I got burned out. I learned through the vision quest process and through shamanism how to get tapped in to the true sources of power that are in here and that are in the spiritual worlds with the helping spirits. So I'm not using all my energy. I'm drawing from and plugged into this much greater source of power. the shaman's net of power, the power animals, the helpers. So what is a vision quest? Our ancestors, of course, all practiced this. They didn't call it a vision quest. They called it a pilgrimage. And they too, came to crossroads in their lives where they were lost, where they were confused, or where they were sick. They didn't know how to get out of that. And so they would go on a pilgrimage to a place of power. There are many of them in ancient Greece, in Malta, in Egypt, the Temple of Isis, for example. And they would go to sit with a priestess and talk about their life. That's actually where the word therapy comes from. Therapeute, they were called. And they would sit with the priestess and they would say, this is what's going on in my life, and I feel lost, or I'm really sick, or I need some help. And they would then be led into a temple and shown how to sleep on a low bed close to the ground with their ear to the ground. And they would call out for a dream. And the healing would come in the form of a dream. In the vision quest, the healing comes in many, many, many forms. Sometimes a dream, but from getting reconnected with this vast cosmic web of being and becoming and filling up with that, right? And then getting clearer on what is my gift? I've got this gift, it's in a box, the wrapper's still on the box, the bow's still on the box. When am I going to open that box? And who's going to help me? Because I'm scared to open that box. What if I'm not big enough? What if I don't know enough to deal with it? So in the vision quest, we discover what the box is for each person. Take the wrapper off, take the paper off, take the bow off, open the box and look at the gift. That thing that right now in your life, you've really come to the earth to share, to give, to be. Perhaps it's a way of being. And you need support to not only take it out of the box, not be overwhelmed by it and want to put it back in the box and put the lid back on, right? I'll do that later. Get into paradigms of doubt and delay, but to be able to open the box, look at it, appreciate it, say yes to it, and then learn how to move with that knowledge of, I am bigger than this life, this small life I've been living. I'm much bigger. There's so much more available to me and for me, and I don't want to leave the planet. This is part of my legacy. I don't want to just leave the planet with this unlived and not being shared. So many people without having guidance, without having a mentor, a guide, they don't even open the box, let alone know what's in the box, and don't get to live from that. You think about, then a person is in their coffin, they're in the earth, and the dreams are circling that place where they're buried, and they're going, I was here. I wanted to be lived. You didn't live me. Now I die too. So in the vision quest, we allow the dreams to show themselves, to talk with us, to, want to be shared. But we also, and this is really important, we also get to work with the old limiting beliefs that have been stopping us all along from even opening the box, what we call the paradigms, the doubts, the hesitations, the fears, right? The boulders, the blocks, all of those things. We get to work with that also. That is really part and parcel of the quest itself, to identify what those are. What is, like, we can lead our whole life with one foot on the accelerator. We get really excited and we want to rev ahead, and then we put the other foot on the brake. And it's like we're in this kind of push, pull, stop, start on our path, and we don't know how to get unstuck from that. And the Vision Quest helps us spring that trap, get unstuck, and you very gently and very lovingly move forward in life. Take charge, become the authority of our lives. Live our lives by design, really, rather than by default.
So Beth, I'm curious, if you could tell us a little bit about, obviously you went through this process yourself of finding that gift and opening that box and bringing it into the world. But can you tell us a little bit about what that process was like for you, of which paradigms you were letting go of, and that moment that you opened the box and what you found inside for yourself? Because I think we find so much healing and empowerment when we can hear those experiences from others as well.
That's a great question. There have been many, many boxes. So I'm thinking about all of them and what story is really going to support your listeners. So I'll go back to it's 1983, and I've worked with Evelyn Eaton. She invited me to go on a vision quest with her, and in the end, she wasn't able to take me, but I found some other people who were qualified to do that, and I'm up at 8,500 feet in the Inyo White Mountains of California. And it's the end of September. It's blazing hot. So hot, the pitch is dripping down the trees, of the pinyon pine trees. And I'm up here and I'm just wondering, what am I doing? I am so tired. I am so worn out. And I never used the word burnout before, but I realized I'm in burnout. I'm in burnout. What's going on here? And I sat down and I started to do some writing. Why am I burned out? I'm just a young college professor. I'm just getting going here. I had this great time with my teacher, Evelyn Eaton, who just saw so much in me and affirmed so much for me, both as a writer and, as a spiritual guide. And why am I burned out? So I started writing, I started journaling. This is again kind of following the feelings, right, which have been so important to me, and staying in touch with that feeling, not trying to push it away. Oh, I'm on my vision quest. I'm not feeling that way. I'm on top of the world. No, really being honest with myself. And I started writing down all the courses I was then teaching. And there were a lot of courses. I was teaching a medicine wheel course at Twin Lakes College of the Healing Arts. I was teaching a dreamwork course. I was teaching women in ceremony course there. I was teaching religion and mythology and ritual and midlife and did I say women in creativity? I was teaching 9 courses in 3 different locations, and I realized, well, that's like 9 different student bodies, 9 different sets of papers to grade, 9 different sets of grades. What am I doing? No wonder I'm tired. So there was all of this fatigue and burnout and sense of being lost that was all around the box. I couldn't even see the box to know that there was a box. I thought I was living from the box, right? I'm doing these 9 awesome things. I'm a real popular college professor. Oh, people are coming from all over to work with me. But I myself, I'm so worn out. So when I got in my purpose circle that night, I heard this voice that said, Beth, what if you were to bring those courses together into one kind of container, into one place? It would be, I thought, well, that's a great idea. There'd be less travel, right? And then I just kind of put that aside. Okay, that's a good idea. I'll figure that out later. And then I was drumming. I was drumming all night under the full moon and singing all the songs and dancing in my purpose circle. And then I sat down and I'm looking at the moon, and there's this voice, and it says, Beth, it's time to start your own school. I thought, well, that makes sense. Of course. I have all these courses. I could be teaching them in my own school. would support me more financially. There would be less traveling. I thought, okay, that's it. That's why I'm up here. I needed that vision. So that was in the box. It was in the box, really, to become my own authority as a teacher, take really responsibility for all the knowledge and wisdom. So I took that vision back home to Santa Cruz with me, and I did a lot of research. How do you start your own school in the state of California, a legitimate school? And I hired a mentor, and the mentor is so important in all of our work, regardless of what we're doing, having a guide. And he helped me see, the steps that I needed to take. And within half a year, I completed that research and I started my own school. And it was called the School of the Living Springs. And that's what the gift was that was in the box. I was busy helping all these other institutions, fill their enrollments and fill the classroom and get those needed hours, that the state of California looks for funding and all of that. But I came to realize there's a school in me. Let's go for that. So, yeah, that changed everything. Living from that gift changed everything.
And so how did that transition into the work that you do now? What was kind of the evolution? Because I know that once you have that vision and you bring it down from the mountain, metaphorically or literally, there's still that evolution. There's still that process that happens after. So what did that look like for you?
Well, I had to learn a lot about marketing and outreach. And it was a very different world then. It was really easy to just, throw an ad in the Good Times. Hey, there's what did I call it? A free introduction to the Vision Quest that's happening at the Pacific Coast Center. Come, let's talk about this. And I had a slide projector then, and, sat on the floor with a slide projector showing the slides. It was so fun. And putting posters up in bookstores and, things like that. And it was a different kind of outreach. It was much more local kind of outreach. It was easier in some ways. And so ask me the question again, because I'm losing the thread here.
How did you get from that starting your school to the work that you're doing now? What was that evolution like?
Oh, the evolution was that people wanted to Vision Quest themselves. People wanted to learn shamanism. And, I got hired by Michael Harner to be a faculty member, and I started teaching. He sent me everywhere. I started teaching in Mount Shasta. That was really sweet because I was living there and teaching at the college there. But then pretty soon he had me up in Lake Tahoe. I was teaching shamanism there, and then in Nevada City. And then he had me going to Portland and teaching in Portland. And then I was in Seattle teaching in Seattle. And then I was in Sacramento teaching a lot in Sacramento, and then Davis. And, it just spread because it was alive. And, I was so on fire with the work. And I would say, it's still very red hot. Shamanism and the Vision Quest are so red hot right now. And I am involved in keeping that fire burning, the fire that our ancestors lit. And just offering, lots of free ceremonies to help people. And, just last night I did a sneak preview to the upcoming New Year's Vision Quest that I'm enrolling people in now. And I just keep making it available and making myself available and giving value to people and listening to, people suffering. There's so much suffering going on. And, since COVID, it's a very interesting shift since COVID. Everything was locked down, and now people are starting to really wake up, come out of that kind of haze and daze. And a lot of people, and there's this whole trend, in the entire country of people not wanting to go back to those jobs because the jobs were dead end, or they were deadening, or people felt, I've worked with a lot of Vision Questers, they felt like, going to work, they had to check their soul at the door. and I don't want that anymore. And energy, life has to go somewhere. And if we keep doing the things that we're not called to and that don't serve us and that aren't good for us, that don't feed us, that life energy goes somewhere and it goes into symptoms. And the body will begin to symptomize and create what we call illness. So in my work, I help people notice that and not just blame it on something else, but really connect with, well, how am I feeling in my soul? We started by talking about the soul, and that, as shamans, we work with the soul. In the Vision Quest and in shamanism, we consider our soul. We sing our soul's song, for example. We can journey to our soul. We consider, like, well, what would I love to be doing with my life? Not this job. I'm thinking of one of my Vision Questers who worked for, an international health corporation, and she had to go into work, and it was a very toxic environment, and people, were constantly fighting each other there, and very cruel to each other, backstabbing. And when she came to work with me, she was already a Buddhist Lama, already ordained, but she wasn't living that part of her life. She, was working paycheck to paycheck and wanting to get to the pension time, right? 3 more years to the pension. And yet, she had insomnia, very high blood pressure. And she said to me, I can't retire. I can't lose my pension. I've got 3 more years to go, but I'm not going to make it. This job will kill me. And she knew that with a certainty. And so I helped her with my shaman visioning process, one of my signature pieces of work, to uncover, well, what is it that you really want to be doing with your life? What gift would you love to be living in your life? If you could, if you could, what would you love? And she uncovered that, it was in the box, right? With a wrapper on it, a bow around it. She said, well, what I really want to do, I'm a Buddhist. I want to teach Buddhism. I want to lead meditations. I want to lead retreats. I want to have a little piece of land somewhere outside of, San Francisco, have a little retreat center. And that was it. She so deeply clicked with that. And it gave her one of those signposts, somewhere to head, that map that we talked about, that we learn about in the Vision Quest, that map of power and healing. She felt so empowered by that. And it began to heal the sense of, well, I'm too old for this. She's in her late 60s. I'm too old for this. God, I can't start my own business now. I don't have a degree in business. All those, I can't, it's not going to work out. All those things we work with inside the Vision Quest. Get unhooked from them and hook up with new empowering beliefs. And she did that. I helped her get early retirement from that international corporation. And she walked away with a fairly good pension. And, she and her husband bought land up in the Sierra Nevada mountains. They've got a little retreat center up there. She's got a super, super popular Buddhist book club now. She teaches meditation. All those symptoms went away. She sleeps at night. Her blood pressure, without any medication, is absolutely perfect. And she's living the life of her dreams. I mean, I have a picture of her that she's radiant in her Buddhist Lama robes, up on this beautiful land with the oaks and the pines up in the Sierra Nevada mountains. So now I've really lost what the question was. I mean, what benefits does a person receive from being inside a Vision Quest? I don't know. What was your question, please?
We were talking about the evolution of your school to the work you do now, but I think that was a beautiful answer, and it actually brought me to my next question, which was this
Please.
idea. You said something to me once when we were just talking, the two of us, that has struck me and stayed with me. And we were talking about these offerings that you do, and these sneak previews of the vision quest, and these envisioning exercises that you offer to the community for free, these complimentary things that you bring. And I had thanked you for your time and for your service. And I said something along the lines of, I know you don't have to do this, so I'm grateful for it. And you stopped me and you said, no, no, I do have to do this because it's my calling. And that phrase, I think, is so beautifully captured in what you were just saying, of how when we're not listening to those soul's instincts, or we're not living our path, or we're not following those callings, that it is, you use the phrase deadening. It creates that separation between us and life, that idea of you have to follow your calling. And I thought that was incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for reminding me of that. So that's what my client Jill, that's exactly what she did. Just that word, you can follow her entire story. She was not listening to her calling. And through the work, what I helped her with my support, and she really did the work, she got to what her calling is. And the Vision Quest gave her the tools, gave her her own medicine bundle, that she still wears today, of tools and ceremonies and activities that took her on this path. And now she's really a fully embodied Lama. I also went on to help her with another part of her calling, which was she wanted to write a book. And her Rinpoche said, to really become a full Lama, you've got to write your book. And so she's been in a shamanic writing program with me. The book is written. The manuscript is now with the Rinpoche, and it's about to be published. So we uncovered, there was another calling underneath. Yeah, I want to teach meditation. I want to teach Buddhism, and I've got a lot to say. And here's the book, Yeah. Yeah, the calling is so powerful. So let's talk about the calling. Do we have a few more minutes?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would love to talk about that, and the benefit that people get from listening to it.
So the callings come from the soul, and they can be very simple. They can be very profound. And there's a lot of things that we can do with a calling. People get callings to live the greater life, to, they have the 3 a.m. wake up call, right? And they're going, oh my God, I have to go to work again tomorrow. Oh, I can't stand this. There's got to be more to life, right? That's life calling right in that moment, that deep discontent. I don't want to go in there. I don't like going in there. I hate the commute. I don't like what I'm doing. I'm just, serving the company and getting a paycheck and living paycheck to mortgage. So, no, there's got to be more. So the soul is calling out for more. Life wants to be lived. And not in this contracted way, but in this greater, freer, fuller way. The soul knows that there's more. So what do people do with that? Some people just go take another sleeping pill. I can't look at this. I gotta sleep. They go back to sleep. So they put the call on hold. Others hear this call and go, my niece, she's so far better suited to have this call. I'm going to give the call to her. Or my grandson, I'm going to pass the call on. They try to, call forward, right? Others hear the call and they go, that can't be spirit calling me. And they hang up. Others just, here, let me press the hold button, right? They put the call on hold for years and years and years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Oh, wait until retirement. And when the mortgage is paid and when the kids are through college, and delay, right? The paradigm of delay. Put the call on hold on delay. But others, and this is, studies show this is only 3% of the population in North America. Wow, there is more for me. There is this larger life. I've got a good life, but I want to go for the great life. So let me see how I can start to listen to this and turn up the volume on this call and get some help and step into it and just explore. I don't have to quit my day job. Well, let's just explore. What would it be like And what might be stopping me from living this larger calling? And that's where, shamanism comes in. And, getting connected to the helping spirits, the true sources of power who really help you explore that, discover that. And that's also where having a guide, a mentor comes in. Invaluable. And I think the thing that we want to say at this point is, yes, I spent 4 days and 4 nights alone up in the Inyo White Mountains to receive my vision. Time to start my school. And, I was gone 2 weeks to do that, to be out in the wilderness with guides and have all the training out there. And most people cannot do that anymore. So after, years and years, 20 years of leading vision quests in the Swiss Alps and the Italian Alps and the Mojave Desert, I've brought the vision quest and all those teachings online so that, anybody who's got this calling, this longing for a greater life, or who's sick and, needs healing and needs these tools of shamanism, anybody can join as long as you can get to like a Monday night class, 5 p.m. Pacific time, and you're willing to do the work. Holy Mother Earth is everywhere. She's not just in the Swiss Alps. And the helping spirits are everywhere. They're not just in the Mojave Desert, in the Joshua trees. They're everywhere. They're right where we are. And there's, I think, great advantage to being able to stay in your daily life and do the work from home, but still you have the benefit of a tribe of people, and you've got a guide who's very experienced, and you've got your own medicine bundle, and every week you put a new tool in there. You get to work with that. You get to explore that. You get to expand, and you don't have to face the rattlesnakes. You don't have to face the mountain lions. You don't have to face the 20-foot long black whip snakes in the Italian Alps. Rather, what we're facing are more the inner pause buttons, the inner, my life is on hold, the inner, I'm so scared. And fear is just so interesting, isn't it? What is fear? It's just the boundary of what is known. Just on the other side of, if this is fear, on the other side of fear is your greater life. And so in the Vision Quest, you get these amazing ceremonial tools and shamanic journeys that make it easier to just open that door and go through.
And so if someone feels that calling to join you for a vision quest and they want to step into that greater life, what are some of those benefits and outcomes that they can expect by going through that process?
Well, I tell really good jokes. We have a lot of fun. And it's just this beautiful, safe container that a person gets to be part of. So you're not alone anymore. Trying to figure this out. We try so many things and we get a little distance, but then the brakes come on again. So a person can expect to discover true sources of power, to push past those old boundaries, those boulders that stand in the way. They can expect amazing discoveries, kind of epiphanies. They can expect to connect with the incredible rapture and beauty of being connected to your own personal power animal helper. They can expect extraordinary relief to let go of the things that have been burdening you, that you didn't know how to release, you didn't know how to let go of. And they can expect to get a vision and start to live a vision-driven life instead of a circumstance-driven life. Just, so many insights, so many revelations. They can expect healing. Yeah. like the client Jill. She found real healing and freedom. I could go on and on and on, but does that give you like a taste?
It does. It does. And so for those listeners who are thinking, oh, maybe this is for me. I do want that greater life. What are some of those other signs that this vision quest is right for them, that it is time for them to step into that journey?
Well, if there are longings for more that are coming up, that can be a sign. Life is getting your attention. And when there are discontents, that's also a sign. Life is not big enough. It's too constricted. I'm too tight here. I want to push past this limit, this boundary, this discontent of what's not working for me in my life. And the thing is, wherever you are in your life, that's the entry point. That's the way in to the vision quest, into shamanism. It doesn't have to, you don't have to have this sign come down from the heavens and say, this is your sign, come on. The signs are, just right in your life. Are you living a life that, you jump out of bed in the morning and you go, yes, this is the life I love. And you get your cup of coffee and you go to the desk and you write the next chapter, or, you go into the office and you're on fire and you're serving at the highest level. I mean, what is it like when you wake up in the morning, and how does the day unfold? If you know that there's more for you and you want to discover, well, what's in my box, right? What's the gift I'm not living? And you think about, you don't know how long you're going to be here. We don't know when we're going to lay our heads on the pillow for the last time. What still needs and wants to be lived for you? And you want to be sure that you get to that. That's your legacy. You want to be sure that you open that door, that you follow that opportunity. Do we have time just really quick to say about this study that was done about 5 years ago with people in nursing homes who were dying? They were going to die the next day or the day after. And it was a hospice nurse who initiated this study. You can find this study online. And the researchers brought in a list of questions. I think the most important question at the top of the list was, what do you regret most in your life? You're going to die tomorrow. What do you regret? And almost to a person, 99% of the people answered the same thing. Said, I don't regret anything I did. What I regret is that there was this opportunity right in front of me. There was this door, I had my hand on the handle, and I got scared. And I pulled back from it. And I never followed that calling. I never pursued what was on the other side of the door. That I never took the risk. It would have stretched me. I would have expanded. I would have found gifts and talents I had never lived from. That's what I regret. And now it's too late. I'm leaving. Yeah, so important to think of that, that we don't know how much longer we're going to be here. And one of my whys in doing this very work is one of my clients from Santa Cruz, who was a librarian, who called me, and she told me, I've been given like 2 weeks. I'm maybe going to live 2 weeks. And her name was Carmen. And she said, and I've got this book in me, and I've been a librarian for 30 years. And I've handled all these beautiful books, and I've known about this book inside of me. I'm an immigrant. I put myself through college. I raised 2 kids on my own. I want to write my story. I want to tell my story. And now it's too late. So we don't want that to be us. we want to take this invitation, which I'm going to give to you right now, to your listeners, if I may. I have what I like to call a breakthrough session. It's a private one-on-one session. And, maybe this incredible podcast that Isabel has facilitated here, maybe this is helping you in your breakthrough. To get out of that comfort zone, that familiar place, that place where you don't feel enlivened. And maybe you'd like to take a next step. So let me offer you a complimentary breakthrough session with me on Zoom. And let's look into, where are you right now? Where do you feel in a trap or stuck or unlived life, or being called to a much larger life and you don't know how to get to it? Let's look at, you might have a sense of what's been stopping you. Let's look at that. That's really helpful. And then let's, do a shaman visioning experience and journey ahead, into your future and begin to create a life you would absolutely love to be living. That's, full of life force and, living at its greatest, its highest level, you living from that gift. And then create a stepping stone, an action step of how you can move forward. So if that appeals to you, you can send me an email, beth@bethbeurkens.com. You see my name on the bottom of the screen here, or maybe they don't see this, but Isabel is going to give you a link with the podcast. It goes right to my online calendar. Let's get you going here. Let's continue this. We got a great momentum going here today. I have to thank you, Isabel, for the momentum that you've created here, for your listeners, for your audience, because so many people right now are just so, what do we call it, stuck. So living in uncertainty and, living with illnesses and living in pain and, this work, just getting into a breakthrough session. I find again and again, I do these with people all over the world, begins to spring that trap and bring in light and hope and greater possibility. Yeah. So, you don't have to live your life on hold. Let's do this together. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Beth, and for sharing that opportunity with our listeners. If you want to schedule your call with Beth, I will put her email as well as the link to book your breakthrough session in the show notes. And Beth, this has been such an enlivening and expansive conversation, and I'm so grateful to have had your voice on the show today.
Thank you. It's really been a pleasure. And I just love that we just got into this flow together. It was so beautiful. Thank you for, your great facilitation, in this wonderful ship that we've been on. And you just kept it going, kept it moving forward. And, so many, I think, different pieces of wisdom have come to the surface. So I look forward to, helping the listeners however I can. Just please feel free to get in touch with me. Let's keep this going.
Absolutely. And before we wrap up for today, Beth, are there any last bits of wisdom or inspiration or hope or advice that you'd like to offer for our listeners today?
Yeah, that is a great question. And so what I want to say in answer to that question is, don't let a paradigm stop you from moving ahead in your life. What we've talked about here today is not just for other people who are highly educated or they've got PhDs or they're doctors, or this is available for everybody. These true sources of power, they're right next to you. They're available to you. Your ancestors were plugged into these true sources of power that helped them get you here. And just don't talk yourself out of this, thinking, oh, well, so many people are going to be on there, she won't have time for me, or I don't really know what I want, so I don't want to waste my time or her time. Just beware of any paradigms, any old voices that come up that maybe stop you from clicking the link that Isabel's going to give you. I'm here to support you right where you are. And wherever you are, that's your entry point. And that's a good point. So, follow that intuitive sense. If you'd like to have a breakthrough call, that's all we're talking about, is having a conversation. So feel free to click that link, and I'm here. I'm waiting to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Beth. And so if anyone listening wants to talk with Beth more or ask questions about the podcast, we'd love to hear them. You can email Beth directly, or if you'd like to share it with the Reiki Cafe community, you can join us over on Facebook there as well. Beth, this has been such a privilege and such an honor. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. I've had such a great time with you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you, listeners, for taking the time out of your day to really tune in to what is your soul calling you to really listen to that calling, right? Remember, you're the creme de la creme. You're 3% of the population. So I want to honor you and thank you for listening.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.